I recently discovered something that completely shook the fragile foundation of my marriage. Terry, my husband, casually revealed over the phone that he had purchased a high-rise condominium right across from the train station. At first, I couldn't even process the words. Why was he suddenly talking about real estate when I was still at my parents' house, recovering from childbirth? He sounded oddly cheerful, almost as if he were trying to impress me. The view is amazing, Carol. You should see how clean and modern it is. You'd love it, he said. But my heart sank. Instead of excitement, all I felt was confusion and dread. How could he have afforded something like this? We had no savings large enough to cover a down payment, not without selling something significant. And then he said it, with the same nonchalant tone. He admitted, "Oh, I sold our house to cover the payment." My blood ran cold. Our house, the place we had built memories in, the home we were supposed to raise our child in, was gone. Worse yet, he made the decision without so much as a word to me. He went on, almost proudly. "Mom and Dad have already moved in with me. It's perfect. Really, a great place for a family." Only he wasn't talking about our family. He was talking about himself and his parents. It was as though I, and our newborn daughter, were an afterthought, if considered at all. I could barely breathe. "My name is Carol. I'm 31 years old, a housewife." And as I sat there listening to my husband announce that he had erased my place in his life, I was still only weeks postpartum, struggling to balance my recovery with caring for our baby girl. Terry is 2 years older than me, a man with a once promising career at a prominent company, and we had been married for 4 years. After a difficult road to conception, our baby was supposed to be a blessing that brought us closer. Instead, Terry had thrown me and our future into chaos. Even before this shocking revelation, there had been warning signs. When I was 8 months pregnant, I stayed with my in-laws often, both to ease my nerves and to spend time with Madison, my sister-in-law. Madison is married to Terry's older brother, and unlike Terry's cold demeanor, she was warm and supportive. I remember one sunny afternoon in the kitchen, Madison smiled at me as she washed dishes and asked, "Carol, you'll be holding your baby in your arms soon. Are you excited? Nervous?" I laughed weakly, placing a hand on my swollen belly. "Honestly, it doesn't even feel real yet. Some days, I still can't believe it's happening." Madison's presence always comforted me. She was raising a 4-year-old daughter herself and had plenty of advice and experience to share. She also carried the heavy responsibility of caring for my mother-in-law, whose mobility had declined in recent years. Madison had once worked as a caregiver, so when she saw the family struggling, she stepped in without hesitation. I admired her for that. She seemed to embody everything I aspired to be, a strong mother and a dependable partner. Unlike Madison, however, Terry had grown more distant. 2 years ago, he had made a costly mistake at work, one that nearly ruined a major project for his company. Although his team covered for him and he avoided termination, the incident permanently tarnished his reputation. His once bright career dimmed overnight. To make matters worse, one of his juniors, someone who used to look up to him, was promoted above him. Terry never recovered from that humiliation. From then on, he seemed to carry a storm cloud over his head. At home, he was short-tempered, irritable, and dismissive. I had hoped that the arrival of our baby would rekindle his compassion, but instead, his bitterness only grew. The breaking point came on the day of our daughter's birth. I went into labor 3 days past my due date. I called Terry repeatedly as the contractions intensified, but he didn't answer. With no time left, my parents rushed me to the hospital. Hours later, exhausted and drenched in sweat, I held our tiny daughter for the first time. She was perfect, her tiny fingers curled around mine as tears streamed down my cheeks. At that moment, nothing else mattered. But Terry wasn't there. Later, I found out why. He had gone out for sushi with his parents. When I asked him about it afterward, he brushed it off casually. "I'd been drinking," he said. "I thought I'd just get in the way if I showed up." The next morning, he appeared at the hospital, alongside his parents. Despite my request for privacy, still weak from delivery, I asked, "Why didn't you come yesterday?" "It couldn't be helped," he said with a shrug, avoiding my eyes. Then came the blow that cut deeper than labor pains ever could. When they learned I had given birth to a girl, my mother-in-law sneered. "A girl? What a useless wife." My father-in-law joined in, scoffing that both Madison and I were pathetic for failing to give the family a son. Terry's response? He sighed. Damn it, I hoped for a boy, but of course it had to be a girl. I felt my chest tighten. I had just gone through the most painful, exhausting experience of my life to bring our child safely into the world, and instead of gratitude, I was met with disdain. Thankfully, a nurse overheard the exchange and firmly escorted them out. Terry never returned to visit us again during my hospital stay. On the day of discharge, I called my parents instead of him. With my daughter bundled in my arms, I left the hospital and went straight to my parents' house. As the days turned into weeks, I kept asking myself how my marriage had unraveled so quickly. The man who once whispered sweet promises of family and love had turned into someone unrecognizable, someone selfish, cold, and cruel. And when he finally revealed he had sold our house behind my back to move in with his parents, it became painfully clear. Terry had already chosen his family, and it wasn't us. The weeks at my parents' house passed in a blur of sleepless nights and tender moments. Caring for a newborn was exhausting, but it was also strangely healing. My daughter's little sighs, her delicate fingers curling around mine, those fleeting gestures made the hardships worth it. My parents, though older and long past the days of midnight feedings, stepped in without complaint. Their home was warm, safe, and filled with the kind of love I had hoped Terry would one day provide. Still, despite the comfort, I couldn't silence the gnawing anxiety about the life I'd left behind. I knew I'd eventually have to confront my husband. That confrontation came sooner than I expected. One evening, my phone lit up with Terry's name. My heart skipped, a nervous throb echoing in my chest. After a moment of hesitation, I answered. Hey, his voice came through, oddly casual. When are you coming back? You've been at your parents' for nearly a month since the baby arrived. I swallowed hard. I wasn't ready, but I forced my tone to sound steady. Sorry, I'll be coming home soon. It's time I get it together for our daughter's sake. I tried to keep the conversation practical, mentioning that I'd accumulated so many baby supplies I'd need his help transporting them back, but his reply wasn't what I expected. No, he said quickly, almost as if he'd been waiting to stop me. You don't have to bring that stuff back. I mean, I have other business with you. Honestly, maybe I should have just told you this over the phone instead of asking you to return. His hesitation was unnerving. What do you mean? What business? I asked, my voice tightening. There was a pause. Then he dropped the first bombshell. I bought a high-rise condo right in front of the station. The words slammed into me like ice water. For a moment, I thought I had misheard. What? You what? Why are you suddenly talking about this? Terry's tone grew animated, almost proud. It's beautiful, Carol. You wouldn't believe the view. It stretches across the entire city. Everything's spotless. The rooms are bright. It's completely different from that cramped apartment. I've already moved in. I struggled to catch up with his words, my mind reeling. Moved in? Where did the money even come from? You can't afford a loan like that on your salary. He didn't even flinch. I sold our house. The down payment came from that. Simple. The air left my lungs. Our house, the place where we planned to raise our child, gone. Sold while I was recovering from childbirth. My voice cracked as I demanded, You sold our home? Without even telling me? Where are your parents living now then? He answered with excitement, like a child showing off a new toy. Daddy and Mommy are with me now. We're all living in the condo together. It's perfect. Honestly, I don't need a parasite like you cluttering things up. My hands shook as I held the phone tighter. Parasite? Was that what he thought of me? Speechless, I barely registered as his words grew sharper, crueler. You're cocky for just a housewife. Without my salary, you're useless. All you do is laze around these days, acting like some couch potato. The venom in his voice cut deeper than any wound I'd known. He spoke as though the sleepless nights, the swollen ankles, the agony of labor, all of it meant nothing, as though my value began and ended with the gender of our child. His cruelty didn't stop there. He reminded me how disappointed his parents had been that our baby was a girl. They're right. You know, he said coldly, maybe I'd be better off with someone younger, someone who can give me a son. I sat in stunned silence, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might faint. My husband, the man I had built a life with, was unraveling before me into someone unrecognizable. Then came the final insult. Your things are in storage. Collect them soon. Oh, and I've already mailed you the divorce papers. Just sign them and file. It'll save us both time. And just like that, he hung up. I sat frozen, the dial tone humming in my ear, my daughter stirring softly beside me in her crib. A single thought crystallized through the fog of betrayal. Divorce? Fine. Bring it on. He'll regret this more than me. My parents were livid when I told them everything. My father's face turned red with rage, while my mother's eyes welled with tears. They insisted I wasn't alone and promised to support me through the divorce. Within days, the papers arrived, and I signed them with a hand that no longer trembled. Half a month later, Terry came storming into my parents' home, red-faced and furious. He slammed his bank book on the table, the pages shaking. What the hell is this? Who took all this money? I looked him straight in the eye, my voice calm. Haven't you heard of the division of property? That's what this is. The account was in my name. I won't give you a cent. His eyes widened in disbelief. You? You couldn't have earned this much. Your salary was reduced after your screw-up at work. You can't possibly. I cut him off. I've been working from home, and I earned enough to match what you brought in. This is legally mine. You wanted a divorce, Terry. This is what comes with it. He sputtered, his anger faltering into shock. You're kidding me? That's when my father, who had been silent until then, spoke with the commanding authority of his years in law enforcement. If you want to fight this, we'll take it to court. But I promise you this, you won't like the outcome. And how dare you come here and treat my daughter this way after everything you've done? Terry's bluster crumbled. I could see it in his eyes, the realization that his grip on me, on our finances, on control, was gone. Time passed, and I poured my energy into raising my daughter. Each smile, each new sound, each small milestone was a reminder that I had made the right choice. Life wasn't easy, but it was peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Then, one day, the phone rang again, an unknown number. I ignored it at first, but the calls persisted until finally, I answered. Hello, Carol, came the hesitant voice. Terry. What do you want? I asked, my patience thin. His tone was desperate, trembling. Please, I need your help. I can't pay the mortgage for the condo. I'm out of savings. Dad's injured his back and had to quit work. And Mom, she spends recklessly. If I can't pay next week, they'll evict us. A humorless laugh escaped me. So you're short on cash? Yes, I thought maybe, if we tried again. Stop, I snapped. You don't want me back. You just want my salary and someone to clean up after you. Remember calling me a parasite? Tell me, Terry, who's the parasite now? There was silence on the line, broken only by his shaky breathing. Also, I added coldly, I will never let my daughter live with you. Don't call me again, and if you show up, my father will have you arrested. I hung up before he could answer, blocking his number. When he tried again from a different phone, I changed mine completely. In time, I learned from Madison that Terry and his parents had been evicted, drowning in debts they could no longer manage. She and her husband had cut ties, moving to a quiet countryside home with their daughter. When she invited me to visit, I was struck by the peace of her rural life, the wide fields, the clean air, the simplicity. As my daughter toddled in the grass, laughing under the sun, I realized something profound. I didn't just escape a bad marriage, I reclaimed my future. No longer bound by Terry's cruelty or his family's bitterness, I was free. Free to raise my daughter in love, free to rebuild myself, free, at last, to imagine a life where joy outweighed regret.